right. Hey there, lords and ladies. Here's a quick video to go with Section 1 notes in U.S. history class. We are obviously in Section 1. This is Independence Hall. This is the place where not only was the Declaration of Independence debated and agreed upon, but also where we're going to eventually write the Constitution. It's a very famous and important building in Philadelphia, and it really was just the town hall back then. But Philadelphia was kind of centrally located, so representatives from all the states could get there, relatively quickly. The actual room, I believe, is a basement room down over here. But this is where all the important decisions that are going to be made that are going to break us away from England happen. So let's talk about where we were in 1776. We have fought the British at Bunker Hill and battles of Lexington and Concord and Fort Ticonderoga. We are at war. We are not technically independent. So right now we are colonies at war with the mother country. When we declare independence, we will be, as far as we're concerned, a separate country fighting another country. We're not colonies anymore when we declare independence. We are our own country. As far as England is concerned, we remain colonists. They do not recognize the fact that we are their own country. So we're going to have to earn that independence by beating Great Britain. So let's talk about how we get there. In 1776, the vast majority of Americans did not care about the revolution. They either saw both sides of the issue or were far enough away from the events in like Boston and Philadelphia, New York. They were down in rural Georgia or something where it wasn't going to affect them. They wanted nothing to do with this. They didn't see either side. They just wanted to get up, work, and go to sleep. So most Americans were neither patriots nor loyalists. They were kind of somewhere in the middle or didn't care. Of the people who did care about the Revolutionary War, it's roughly even split. We don't really have true numbers because they didn't take a poll back then. And certainly if the British came around and knocked on people's doors and said, "Hey, do you support the revolution?" everybody's going to say, "No, I don't, British guy, because I don't want to go to jail or die. So I do not support the revolution. I have no idea what you're talking about." But certainly people did. So it was roughly equal, but most Americans want nothing to do with this. So the average American had a really hard time being convinced to join the revolution for a few reasons. First off, most didn't care. Secondly, Great Britain was the strongest country on earth. They had the biggest navy. They had the best trained troops. They didn't have the most troops. The French had more troops, but they had the best trained, the most money, the most supplies, the biggest navy, the everything. And we were a bunch of farmers. You don't poke the bear. There was not a lot of Americans that were willing to join that revolution. So to kind of rally the people around the cause, one of the many patriots that chips in is a guy named Thomas Paine. And he writes a pamphlet called Common Sense. Now, in today's world, common sense means, of course. It means it's only common sense that you don't walk through the middle of traffic, right? Back then, this was not a common term. You didn't say common sense. So in this case, common sense means I'm going to try and get you guys to all agree that what I say is true. I'm going to bring us so that we all have in common the same sensibilities, the same thing that makes sense to all of us. Okay? So common sense in this case doesn't mean no duh. It means we all agree that this makes sense. Okay? And it had a couple theories. There's a 50-page pamphlet. Now, we would call it today a 50-page pamphlet would be called a book. But it was, if you look at the type, it was really big type, and there was a lot of space in there. If we were to read it nowadays, it'd probably be a 4 or 5-page, densely worded pamphlet. But it's really good. It's really good, and it says a couple things. First off, the king's dumb. Pretty common theme in America at the time. But also that we were better off without the king. The king is not helping us. He picks the king, and it's the king and parliament, but it's hard to be mad at a large group of people. It's easy to be mad at one guy. So the king becomes the symbol of everything that's wrong. And basically, the king is not only failing to do his job by making us a better country and taking care of us, which is the job of a king, but also he's hurting us. If we didn't have a king, we'd be better off. The second thing that's not in here is that one of the main theses of common sense is that we're already independent. Like we have our own militias. We can create our own taxes. We already have our own legislatures. We have leaders. We don't need England for any of that stuff. We are already doing everything a country needs to do. This pamphlet rallies a bunch of educated, rich, powerful Americans to the cause. And this is Thomas Paine, good-looking guy. Looks a lot like that already. Anyway, so a bunch of people start to support the revolution in their own individual states. Then the Continental Congress brings those people together again, and a guy named Richard Henry Lee introduces a resolution, which is, just a statement, but it's revolutionary, not because it's cool, because it creates a revolution, and it says, these United Colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. So not only are we already independent, but we should be. We have every right to be independent, and we are independent. Now that is treason. That is the official, we are not part of Great Britain. We are declaring independence. We're in rebellion. Okay? Now, the Crown already considers us in rebellion, but this is us agreeing with them. Yep, you're right. We're not part of you anymore. So these words exactly are going to be in the actual eventual Declaration of Independence, but Congress decides we're not just going to release these words. We're going to justify them. We're going to tell the entire world, here's a bunch of reasons why we're going to be independent. We're not just 5-year-olds that are mad at our parents. We're not just complaining about the rules. We are abused adults, and we have reasons, and there's a lot of justification for breaking away from Great Britain. So they don't want to just release it. They give Thomas Jefferson the job of creating a document that lists all the reasons. Here are all the reasons that we should be and are independent. And it becomes a quite lengthy list of complaints, grievances. And the actual Declaration of Independence was signed and debated in this tiny room in Independence Hall. You're pretty much seeing the entire room here. And there was like 70-some people in there. It was quite crowded. This is what the Declaration actually looks like. You can visit it in the Archives building in Washington, D.C. I believe this isn't the original Declaration. It's like the second or third one that was written. Once Congress agreed to it, Thomas Jefferson sat down and wrote a bunch more copies, because we don't have photocopiers back then. He wrote a bunch more and sent them to each state. So I think this is the second or third one written. But anyway, the Declaration of Independence itself, and here's the actual text of it, is really, if you look here, all this indented stuff, this is the entire Declaration. So this is up here, we got like why we have the right, why we think that every man has the right to have their own government. Then all of this is complaints. Everything that the king's doing wrong, all of the stuff that we're mad about. And it's quite a long list. The majority of the Declaration of Independence is not declaring independence, it's justifying it. It's like saying, I quit, but before I quit, let me tell you all the reasons I quit. If like at your job, right? And you have like 3 pages of stuff of reasons you want to quit. Yes, you're quitting, but the whole point of the speech is, let me tell you why I'm really mad right now. And that's what the Declaration of Independence is. If they wanted to just declare independence, they could have done that with Richard Henry Lee's statement. Okay? But they wanted the world to know that we're not 5-year-olds. We're adults that have been abused. And here's all the things that they did to abuse us, and all the things that government has done to hurt us, and why we would be better off without them. And then at the very end, you'll find Richard Henry Lee's actual statement. Okay? We solemnly publish and declare that these United Colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. They took the actual Declaration of Independence from Richard Henry Lee and put it in the document. But it's at the end because they wanted to make sure everybody read and understood there's 1,000 reasons why we did this. We're not just whining. We have reasons. So we declare independence from Great Britain, and this makes a big difference. It happens on July 4th, 1776. Congress approves the Declaration of Independence. And when Congress approves it, that becomes the official date that we're independent. And that's why that's considered the birth of our nation. But it's not done yet. There's other steps that have to happen. They sign it on August 2nd because not everybody was in the room on July 4th. And they wanted to give each state's representatives a chance to talk to their people back home. So about a month later, everybody's had a chance to kind of like write back to their states. And they sign it, and Ben Franklin gives kind of a famous statement saying, get back there. We must all hang together, or surely we'll hang separately. And in this case, the first hang together is like, we need to stick together, right? We must all stick together. Or most, now why does he say hang together? Because of the beautiful symmetry of the sentence and the poetic nature of it. We must all stick together, hang together, or most assuredly we'll hang separately. And that is, by the neck. That's the hanging. So, in other words, if we don't stick together now and win this war, we're all dying. And everybody in that room who signed that Declaration of Independence committed treason. They are now wanted, and they are wanted to be put to death. So these people who signed that did a very brave thing. They are now officially under the death sentence by the British. If they lose the war, they will die. If they're found, they will die. So what does the Declaration of Independence do? It makes it so we're no longer complaining about how poorly we were being treated. We cannot go back to being colonies. Or if we do go back to being colonies, we're going to get crushed by the British. And any chance to complain in the future is gone. It's kind of all or nothing now. We're now trying to create a new nation. We want our own country. A country in which we get to make our own rules. We get to do whatever we want. But we are not fighting to get better treatment and stay colonists anymore. We are not fighting to get lower taxes. We are fighting for the right to do exactly the way we want it on our own with no help at all from Great Britain. All right. That's section 2. Please email me if you have any questions. All right. I hope you guys all have a great day.